The previous basket is under review.
Welcome into the episode of Weekend Under Review. That is Matthew Winick. I am Brian Rauf. Thank you guys very much for joining us on this Halloween, nice Friday night Halloween. We don't get those very often. We are winding down exhibition season here, Matthew. Before we get to the real thing, starting next week, our show on Monday is going to be previewing the season ahead and looking ahead. There's not a ton of games coming up this weekend, but there's a lot that happened this week that we need to dive into. So that's what we're going to do here. Before we do, we need to make sure that everybody listening to this goes and subscribes to Basket Under Review. Subscribe to the Basket Under Review Discord. You get access to all of our paywalled content at basketunderreview.com and the Discord, which the Discord features Shirley Donovan's insights and intel, all the exclusive stuff that he has. It's the best community of college basketball sickos as well. Just people who really love the sport and the great community that goes along with it. $10 a month gets you access to all of that. Couldn't think of a better way to spend $10, honestly. Make sure you do that. Subscribe to the Basket Under Review Discord. Help supports us, help supports the site, help supports all the other shows that we do, giving you lots of college basketball content all season long. Let's dive into probably the highest profile game of the week, Matthew, which was Arkansas and Memphis. Arkansas won 99-75. Is the final score indicative of how you think these two teams stack up together? Because this was a little bit of one half Memphis, one half Arkansas, and obviously Arkansas blew it out of the water in their half. How did you see this game unfolding? What are some of your biggest takes?
Yeah, this was honestly 10 minutes Memphis and then 30 minutes Arkansas. Like Memphis jumped up to a huge lead early on. I think they were up by 15 with 8 minutes left in the first half. They were up huge. They basically just kind of got into Arkansas's skin, bunch of turnovers, steals on the press. Arkansas looked like they did not really know what pressure meant in basketball, which is weird because they have a fair amount of D1 experience across the roster. And then Arkansas learned how to play basketball like a normal team, how to dribble, how to pass, how to shoot. And then Memphis was just absolutely, utterly overmatched. If you take away their, let's do some quick math here, 15-point lead and they lost by 24. They got outscored by 39 in the last 8 minutes plus 28 minutes of the game. There's my math. So they were relatively non-competitive, and I don't want to take away from Arkansas. They had a very good game. I mean, obviously we kind of knew what to expect from this roster that has the most minutes continuity of any team in the SEC. But my main takeaway was I really don't like this Memphis team. They made 6 threes. Doug McDaniel had 3. So the rest of the roster went 3 of 27 from deep. And McDaniel had 6 of their 10 assists. So the rest of the team only had 4 total assists. This is Doug McDaniel and the others are not very good.
Yeah, the good news for Memphis, I thought, was that Doug McDaniel looked like the Michigan version of himself before the academic stuff came into play, the one that looked like an All-American candidate for a month or two. That version of Doug McDaniel looked back. He was playing free. He was playing confident. You didn't see any of the hesitation, and he wasn't always engaged at Kansas State. You saw the best version of Doug McDaniel. And I think this system, it is very free-flowing that Penny Hardaway likes to employ. It gives his point guard a lot of freedom. And I think Doug McDaniel can thrive with that. To your point, though, they settled for a ton of just contested and quick and bad look threes in that second half. That's a big part of why Arkansas went on that huge run. Bad shot selection. Just bad shot selection, quite frankly. On the other side of things, with Arkansas fans are not huge fans of mine because I'm not a huge fan of the John Calipari hire. That being said, I think Darius Acuff is the perfect Calipari lead guard because of his ability to find a way to get downhill no matter what. He doesn't need structure. He doesn't need things run for him. If he gets the ball and gets some action that allows him to go downhill, he is going to go downhill. And he showed the ability to do that at a very high level against a Memphis defense that, as you mentioned, was able to force turnovers. Has been able to give a lot of lead guards throughout Penny Hardaway's tenure a lot of problems. And this is a freshman who handled it and did pretty well. Him and Malik Thomas, I think, should be like the 2 best players for Arkansas, or at least the 2 most explosive players for Arkansas this season. Because you have the guy who gets downhill in Calipari's system, and you have the guy who's just a gunner offensively and will shoot it whenever he gets the ball, can score from all three levels. Like, to me, those two are going to determine how far this Arkansas team goes, which puts DJ Wagner in a weird position too, because I don't know if Calipari is not going to play DJ Wagner as much. But I think for Arkansas to be their best, you have to lean fully into an Acuff Thomas backcourt pairing.
No, they're definitely going to be their two probably highest used players, at least, especially given who else is on the roster. An interesting development, Billy Richmond made 2 threes his entire freshman season. He had 2 threes in this game on 3 attempts. If he's hitting the 3 ball, he'll be highly valuable. The thing with Arkansas, and John Calipari said this in this new portal era, he doesn't want more than 9, contributors on this team. This team has 8. They played 8 guys in this game, and it's not like they had a player injured. Like Isaiah Seeley is their 9th man. He's a borderline 4-star recruit. He played in the first game of their exhibition series and then didn't play in this one. If Arkansas has an injury, whether it's the 5-man position, which is just Nick Pringle and Malik Ewan, or whether it's the guard spot where Darius Acuff and DJ Wagner are really their 2 on-ball guys, there's an injury here. They are going to have some serious depth concerns. I understand not wanting to the other idea is Memphis having like 14 guys that played D1 hoops last year on the roster, but none of them actually being all that good. Fine, focus your team on 9 really good players. If you're doing like the sort of salary cap model, fine. But if someone gets injured on this team, like Boogie Flan did last year with the same strategy, now you have a real problem.
I do think you take some of this with a grain of salt, obviously, because it's an exhibition. But I think you do with Calipari teams a little bit more, because last year, now Kansas turned out to not be as good as we all thought, but last year, their first exhibition game, they blew out Kansas. And we all thought that Arkansas was going to be incredible. Now, Arkansas, did finish with the Sweet 16, but the regular season was a very rocky road for Arkansas. I have a little bit more faith, I think, in this team because given Memphis, we don't know what Memphis is going to be. I think I have a little more faith in this team because of what I talked about with Acuff and Thomas in particular. But I do take the Calipari stuff with a little bit of a grain of salt with this. Now, the one thing I will say about John Calipari that's been true going back to his time at UMass, you think of him whatever you want, he is generally overly honest with the media about his feelings about his team. They tried to do a sideline interview in this game of him coaching on the sideline, and it did not work. It was rough, man. It was rough. But the one good thing you got out of that was him talking about how he was excited to see like what they had, that he didn't think they could handle this, and they're going to learn a lot from this, which you see a lot of coaches do. But that, like, Calipari was also the guy telling you the Kentucky team that made the NIT in like 2013 spent all offseason being like, I don't think we got it. Like, we'll see. These guys got a long way to go. And everyone's like, oh, you just won the title. You're fine. Blah, blah. No, he was right. I think he's right about this team where there's a lot of talent. They still got to figure out some things. But this was a really good test for them. And the way they responded to being down so much so early with this young group, or the young guys leading the charge back, right, with Acuff and Thomas, I think says a lot about where this team can be. We'll see him in real live bullets and live action the next couple of weeks, but certainly feel much better about Arkansas than I may have otherwise.
No, for certain. I think that there's going to be a lot to learn and grow with this team, but they're huge. They have a lot of experience, and they have a lot of talent.
Yeah, they do. They do. UConn does as well. That was on display in a 76-69 win over Michigan State. That was on UConn Plus. I made a joke last time we were on this about not knowing what UConn Plus was. I made a joke on Twitter /X about not knowing what UConn Plus was. There's an entire section of the country in the Northeast that has no idea that other people do not know what UConn Plus is. Apparently, it's very common in the Northeast. So many people in the area, at the very least, saw UConn's victory over Michigan State. Was not as close as the final score indicated. Again, 7-point win for UConn. They led by 19 with 11 minutes left in the game. They were up double digits almost the entirety of the game. I would consider this to be a pretty dominant performance from the Huskies. What can we take away from that on the UConn side of things?
Well, first of all, there were 52 made free throws in this game, and there were 40 made field goals. Like, it wasn't even close. There were more free throws than I would have. I didn't watch any of this game because I do not personally have a subscription to UConn Plus. That said, I'm actually pretty happy I didn't watch this game because it was probably completely unwatchable. Now, the thing is, and this is probably concerning for Michigan State, if they're going to win basketball games this year, that's how they're going to win it. They're going to win it being unbelievably physical because that's by far their biggest strength. And yet they still weren't necessarily all that competitive in a game that was this physical. UConn is going to have an issue if Terrace Reed misses a significant period of time, just because of the way they play defense and the way that they're going to be fouling. Eric Ryby and Dwayne Caroma, they're two bigs in this game with no Terrace Reed, combined for 11 fouls. Neither of them played more than 22 minutes in this game. They played a combined 33 minutes. They had 11 fouls. That is just completely unsustainable in a game against a good team. Obviously, not every team is going to draw as fouls as much as Michigan State, where Jeremy Fears and Jackson Kohler combined for 23 free throw attempts and 12 field goal attempts. But UConn is going to have to either change their philosophy defensively at least a little bit, do a better job of preventing rim attempts, just be slightly less aggressive, because they don't really have other options at the 5. Like, they were sliding down and playing, like Jaden Ross and Alex Caravan at the 3-4 with Ryby and Caroma with those foul trouble. And like, that's not going to work in your average game against really top tier competition.
I'm with you 100%. I'll also say, with that in mind, a positive for UConn and a negative for Michigan State is UConn won the rebounding battle by 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. as rough as the front court was at times, and the fact that Michigan State was playing Carson Cooper, was playing Jackson Kohler, was playing their guys, UConn still won the rebound.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and when you want to be as physical as Michigan State was, as you said, you got to do that. Particularly when you're only going to shoot 14 threes because you don't have a lot of three-point shooters on your team. That was my big takeaway from this, from Michigan State standpoint, is they are so limited when it comes to playing against teams at this level, right? We know the floor is going to be at a certain point with any Tom Izzo team because it's a Tom Izzo team. Yeah. They're going to play good defense. They're going to do the little things well. They're going to do what they can to win on the margins. But to beat teams like UConn that are preseason top 5, to beat or play with teams at the top of the Big Ten that Michigan State is going to play with this season, you have to have more offensive firepower. You have to have more spark. You and I both think there are different options for that. I'm on the Cohen Carr side. You're on the Jackson Kohler side. Jeremy Fears has been pretty good throughout the exhibition season as well. He has shown some of that from a playmaking standpoint. Somebody has to step up and be that guy consistently. Because if they're not, this is another team that's, if they make the tournament, it's going to be maybe a double-digit seed or a low seed, certainly, compared to one that has any shot of making a real run.
And to your point, of the 2 games Michigan State's played now, UConn and Bowling Green, only one player across those 2 games, Cohen Carr in the first matchup, has made more than 5 field goals in either of the games. They have no go-to option. Cohen Carr is still a complete non-shooter. He did make a 3, but he's been awful from the free throw line. Pardon?
1 of 1 from 3.
1, but 2 of 7 from the free throw line. It's not like the shot has just magically appeared. He went 3 for 8 from the free throw line in the first game, so that's 5 of 15, 33% for those counting at home. On the flip side, if we want to go back to UConn quickly, like, Alex Caravan is, in my opinion, the most underrated player in the country, because he's been on this national stage now for 4 years, and obviously he's not going to, play a ton of ISO ball and be the highest scorer, but he contributes to every single facet of the game. And he's going to be absolutely critical for this UConn team that, after their down year last year, he had his worst season of his career. With more talent around him, he's the type of guy that is going to play better the better players that are around him.
I agree with you. I'm also going to use this opportunity to spread more solo ball propaganda. 18 points for solo ball on 1 of 7 3-point shooting.
Mm-hmm.
What that tells me, and what I saw, was his ability to continue to make an impact offensively in other ways that he did not last year. Last year, if the shot wasn't going, his impact was limited. He could still do some things, but his impact was limited. Played 32 minutes. The only guy who played more was Caravan, 33. His ability to still make an impact and be one of the leading scorers in this game, Caravan also had 18, without shooting the 3 really well, I think bodes well for his overall growth as a player. I've talked about him being an All-American candidate, Big East Player of the Year kind of guy, or at least first team All Big East kind of guy. You have to be more than just a shooter. I think he showed flashes of that last year. He's continued now through 2 exhibition games to show that that's becoming more and more of a reality for him as well, which I picked UConn on the national championship. Solo ball being more than just a shooter helps with that, certainly.
Still just 1 assist, though. There's still more to be done in the playmaking category.
There is. Having a healthy Silas Demery play in this game with the Malachi Smith takes some of that burden off of him as well. But, yeah, him being a secondary guy, you want to see a little bit more from there. Donovan Dent didn't show any issues being a creator against UC Irvine. UCLA won that game 94-64. We thought it would be a good test for UCLA because of the way UC Irvine plays defense. UC Irvine also already has a win over Arizona State on their exhibition schedule. Not even close. Never once did UCLA allow UC Irvine to kind of hang around or really sniff this game. Dent finished with 16 points and 8 assists. That doesn't even tell the whole story to me. Like, he only played 20 minutes and he was in just total control of this one from start to finish.
Holy crap, was UCLA good. They were absolutely unbelievable. And the thing is, like you mentioned, Donovan Dent played 20 minutes. He ended up playing all 20 minutes of the first half and 0 minutes in the second. That was his split, right? UCLA won the first half by 31 and lost the second half by 1. So Donovan Dent plays all 40 minutes. They're on pace to win that game by 62. Obviously, they weren't going to do that. The thing is, they played fast. Like, this is not the Mick Cronin offense that everyone's like, oh, well, Donovan Dent's going to play with Mick Cronin. Like, he's going to lose all his transition ability. No. Mick Cronin bent. He let Donovan Dent play his style. We have Tyler Bilodeau shooting like early possession spot up threes when he's feeling it. Jamar Brown's tipping out offensive rebounds, running to the corner and getting second chance. Like, this is a different UCLA offense than what Mick Cronin has had in any stage of really any of his tenure in any of his programs coming up through his career. There is explosiveness to this team. There's speed, there's athleticism. They didn't even play with Eric Daly, who I consider to be their second best player and one of the best offensive players in the entire country. They're top 6, with Jamar Brown being that 6th guy. Even Brandon Williams, who played very well in this game. They're unbelievable. And I have them as a Final Four team in the Basket Under Review predictions that came out on Thursday. I was unbelievably impressed against the UC Irvine team, who might be a little bit lower on talent than in some years. They're still a disciplined group, and they keep games close. They beat Arizona State less than 2 weeks ago. This was utterly dominant in the first half when UCLA was playing their guys.
Irvine just looked overwhelmed to me, like, just by the talent, by the size, the way everything UCLA was doing. I have not been as high on UCLA. I still think UCLA is a good team, but I think I have them 18 in my top 25 and they're 12 in the AP poll. My question centered around if Mick Cronin was going to let them play like this, because the other side of this, too, along with Donovan Dent, Xavier Booker looked like the best he's looked in college. He was efficient. He was productive. He stayed out of foul trouble. And he's not somebody who you're going to rely on to carry your offense night to night, right? But the pairing of him and Bilodeau looked good. And he's the one guy we have talked about with this team that can be a high-level rim protector. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's now a star and fixed and going to be everything that UCLA wants him to be. But this was, I think, as good as he has looked in college.
Yeah. I mean, he did have 6 turnovers and no assists, so that maybe not the greatest.
Yeah, there was part of it that still needed to be worked on, but the shooting percentage was very high. He wasn't taking bad shots. He wasn't getting in foul trouble. Both of those things are reasons why he could not stay on the floor of Michigan State. Yeah, both those things were not problems today.
Everyone loves to say how Doug McDaniel. We talk about Memphis, how Doug McDaniel is going to make Aaron Bradshaw better. Why are we not talking about how Donovan Dent can make Xavier Booker better? That's a great pairing in terms of the way that Donovan Dent's able to drive the lane, manipulate defense, and then dump it off to his big. Nelly Jr. Joseph at New Mexico basically made a career off of that. So why can't, at least cut the turnovers down, why can't Xavier Booker be that?
Yeah, don't put Booker in charge of making any decisions. Yep. Either go score it or pass it back to Donovan Dent. Find something else. But yeah, UCLA was incredibly impressive in that game. A little bit closer contest between Western Kentucky and UAB. The Hilltoppers won that one 78-76. Hilltoppers led by 26 points from Tegan Moore. A lot of turnovers in this game, but a close game. I think a good test for both teams. What did you see from this one that you think could take away going into the regular season?
I love Tegan Moore. I know that he might not be a major name for a lot of guys, and it'd be easy for someone to listen to this and be like, oh, you love Tegan Moore because he had that many points when he played the other day. Tegan Moore didn't play last year, right? He was an oft-used freshman 2 years ago on a Western Kentucky team with Steve Lutz that was excellent. He came on in the second half of that season and was actually one of their 2 or 3 best players. So he's going to be their superstar this year on a team that is genuinely 12 or 13 deep, and they're going to play really fast and just hockey subs, lineups. Like, if he could be a true star for this team, not only did he absolutely lead them in scoring, but he was their best plus minus by far. If he's their best player, if he's their alpha, and they have like 12 different secondary guys, they'll be really, really good and maybe the second or third best team in Conference USA. I currently have them at 3 behind Kennesaw State and Liberty. They've returned 0 points from last year's team. They're completely starting from scratch. Their backcourt's supposed to be their strength, and it was their strength in this one. 38 combined points from the starting duo of Ahmad Robinson and Jacob Meyer. They just have to find anyone outside of that starting backcourt to be a big impact player. Their big man rotation is quite poor. Their wings are very JUCO heavy, or Chance Westry, who's been unproven in his D1 career. If they get that wing or front court piece alongside that backcourt, they'll be a really strong team. But both teams will be near the top of their conferences in the mid-major ranks.
Yeah, for UAB, I think the main area of growth you want to see is just depth. And I think you saw that in this game, along with just outside the backcourt. You had 5 guys for UAB who played at least 24 minutes in this game. You had a number that rotated in, but you had 5 main guys, and all those guys scored double figures, which is great. Everybody else combined for 7. So if you were going to have 5 guys you rely on, that's fine. You can throw those 5 out on the court. But if there's nothing behind them, that's really going to limit you. Really going to limit you in the American.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is going to be the difference for them. Is if they can find some depth. Again, as we said with Arkansas, don't need to go as deep as Western Kentucky wants to go. But if you can get to 7 or 8 reliable pieces you can trust, that's fine. Right now, they don't have 6, I don't think. At least it didn't appear that way in this game. So that's something to watch for UAB, if they're going to be a factor in the American race or not. See who develops during the month of November here.
Yep.
Back to the power conference level, where Northwestern got a dominant 100-65 win over Illinois State. I was really impressed with Jaden Reed in this game. South Florida transfer had 11 points and 11 assists for Northwestern. Ran the show pretty well there. What did you see from this one that you think may translate to the regular season?
Yeah, I love Jaden Reed. 2 years ago, his freshman year at South Florida, he was one of the best passers for all of freshmen in college hoops land. Very low usage player. And then last year, obviously the tragic passing of Amir Abdur-Rahim right before the season kind of hampered South Florida. Reed had to take a way bigger scoring role. He wasn't all that effective. And I don't want to say he settled for Northwestern, but he probably would have had better opportunities had he entered the portal after his freshman season. So now he ends up at Northwestern. He probably could have gotten more money elsewhere the year prior. And I think it's a perfect fit for a Northwestern team that is going to look to play offensively through Nick Martinelli, their unbelievably talented 4. Reed is going to get him the ball in terrific spots, and that should be a great pick and roll pairing. And then they've just kind of added a bunch of really fun pieces next to him. Like Max Green is an awesome offensive player, a great shooter at Holy Cross last year. KJ Wyndham hit 4 threes and is seen as kind of the breakout candidate on this roster. The freshman duo of Trey Singleton and Tyler Kropp have really high upside. And then Arinton Page is just a giant human being. You can sort of fill that Matthew Nicholson role of being a rim protecting 5. Like, this team fits. And they might not have the highest ceiling because they don't have that like unbelievably explosive on-ball guard that's going to like break you down. There's no Darren Peterson on Northwestern, but as a core, like they're going to win a lot of Big Ten games. They'll be very strong offense, and they just kind of made Illinois State, who is one of the favorites in the Missouri Valley, look like a complete non-factor.
They're a tournament team, Northwestern. Like I think they're an anti-tournament team, and I think that should be the expectation for them going into this season. Martinelli was awesome, as he tends to be. The duo of him and Reed, as you mentioned, should be, I think, one of the best 1-2 combos in the Big Ten. There's a lot of good ones. I think they're right up there with some of the best of them. Another note from this game, we've kept track of the foul fests, and the parades to the free throw lines that happened in some of these exhibitions. Northwestern had 34 free throw attempts in this one. Illinois State had 35. 69 total free throw attempts in this one. Not great for the flow. Not great for the flow of the game.
No. I mean, listen, Illinois State is going to have better performances than this. They went 4 of 27 from 3 as one of the best shooting teams in the country last year. I wouldn't dock Illinois State too far after this performance. I would just more, like we've kind of been talking about, Northwestern's really good. The
Yeah.
bottom of the Big Ten outside of Penn State and Rutgers, like I'm talking Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, like they're all pretty good. So there's no easy games in the Big Ten outside of those couple of teams that are pretty bad.
Big Ten too. Really, you have like a pretty solidified top 4 or 5, and then the group after that till about 13. I think you could flip a coin and you can make a case for any of them finishing 5 or 6 or any of them finishing 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
It should
Absolutely.
be a fun league for sure. Last one we're going to talk about today was Butler's 105-80 win over Indiana State. They did play 48 minutes in this game compared to 40, which is why the scoring is a little bit higher. Still, like this is a make or break season for Thad Matta, really at Butler. They shot 50% from the field as a team, forced 20 turnovers, and he had Finley Bizjack step up and be a pretty good offensive threat with 24 points to lead the way for them in this game. What did you see from Butler that may give you a little bit more hope going into next season or going into this coming season? Excuse me.
I mean, listen, with Butler, the ceiling is not high, but I don't think the floor is that low. They have capable basketball players. Jalen Jackson was a very heavy on-ball option at Purdue Fort Wayne last year, who I think will kind of keep them pretty stable with the ball in his hands. And Michael Ajayi, though he had a down year at Gonzaga, is someone who is an experienced player, very physical, going to grab a ton of boards. It's just the ceiling here. Like they brought in a pretty good freshman class. The freshman that led them in scoring in the first game, Ifeosa Oliogu, didn't play in this game because he rolled his ankle in the pregame warmups. But he'll be a factor, and he might be a little bit of that ceiling. But unless Finley Bizjack is out here scoring 24 points on 12 shots every game against an Indiana State defense that is, quite frankly, very bad, it's just going to be tough for them to go against Power 5 size and athleticism, game in, game out, and come away with wins. And that's kind of been what Thad Matta's tenure, at least this time around at Butler, has been. I don't expect much different from at least like what last year looked like for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the floor is probably higher than it's been under Matta. The ceiling may still very much be the same unless one of these guys breaks out. It was good to see Ajayi play well. He looked a little bit more like the guy who was such a hot commodity in the portal last offseason, 2 off seasons ago now, before the year at Gonzaga. So that was nice to see. And it was nice to see from a Butler standpoint, Bizjack step up in this way, because that's something that they've been waiting on, is that consistent level of production from him. We'll see if that transfers over to the regular season as they play defenses that are, probably going to finish in the top half of the country as opposed to Indiana State. But a pretty good ordeal there.
Yep. And then quickly, just a shout out to Indiana State. Like, obviously the defense won't be there on a game in, game out basis. 30 made field goals, 24 assists. There are power conference teams that could only dream of putting up that assist rate. They're going to play, I think they were number 1 in the country last year in rim 3 rate. That means I think 95% of their shots were either 3-pointers or at the rim. They play a very analytically sound brand of basketball. They can get stops. They have a chance to be an upper half Missouri Valley team.
Ball movement was good. Not prime Spurs level, as we talked about ball movement on last episode, but ball movement was very good for Indiana State. As I mentioned at the top, there are no real exhibition games of note this weekend. We have the real thing starting on Monday. Teams are assessing what happened during exhibition season, figuring out what they need to address, and then we really get going in a big way on Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there are some games that kind of trickle out. You get like 1 or 2 big games a night. Before the weekend, there's a lot more big games as well. We'll have previews for all of those games coming up next week on Monday. We'll also look ahead to the season as a whole, what we're looking forward to, some things we're looking at, what we've maybe learned from exhibition season as a whole. A lot we're going to talk about on Monday. I don't know, any teases of overall things that we've learned?
I just want to clarify. We're going to talk about all of the games on Monday, all 108. That's the plan. All
the big games.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that we weren't going to spend our entire Sunday night talking about every single one of these games.
We could just rapid fire picks for all of them.
That'd take a little while. General takeaways: you should take away something from one of these games if what you saw validates your previous opinion. You shouldn't take away something that entirely changes what you thought. what that means is, like, for example, Vermont lost a game outright to a Division II team, and they're favored to win the America East. I wouldn't go ahead and be like, well, Vermont's cooked, they're going to finish last, and I should go and predict someone else wins. That doesn't mean that much. But if you see something like, I didn't love Memphis's talent outside of Doug McDaniel, and they all underperformed, now I'm kind of being like, well, the results have continued me down this path. And so that's what I would suggest taking away from these games, just to help reconfirm the things that you're seeing, not completely reinvent your thoughts.
This window, this exhibition window, is like a trailer for a movie, right? You get little snippets. You can tell a little bit what it's about, but how many times have you seen a trailer and you go see the movie and it was not at all what you were expecting? Sometimes that happens. Sometimes the trailer gets you super hyped and you see one of your favorite movies of all time. It's a bit of a mixed bag in that sense, and we're here to try and help you figure out, again, what matters and what doesn't. We will continue to do that throughout the entirety of the season. Real things coming up. Can't wait. Make sure everybody stay safe. Halloween. Have a good weekend. We got an exciting season to look forward to. We'll talk to you on Monday as we preview the season.